Busy. With the banking business, it's always good when you're busy.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting close. 1 more minute there. So if anybody wants to sign up, please do it. It's getting to closing. All right. I hope John Roy's name ain't on here again. Or some other weird name. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, looks like 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. All right, everybody got kind of quiet in, but the Board of Supervisors January 26th meeting is now coming in order. I missed the December meeting. I want to apologize to my constituents and, of course, all the Nottoway citizens. I thought I was dying. I thought I had the flu, the monkeypox, and a couple other things. And when I went to the doctor, all I had was a cold, so that was very disappointing. My wife is still calling me Sissy Man. But anyway, I just want to tell you, I apologize for not being. I really was sick. And anyway, so I'm trying to make up some time with you, so I apologize. All right, with that said, I'd like to sort of call the meeting to order. I got Reverend Chris Hillman here from Sharon Baptist Church on the, I think you're at the border from Nottoway there a little bit.
Yeah, we're on the fringe.
Well, okay, well, appreciate you the invitation, please, and introduce your sidekick there if you would.
Yeah, this is, as they call it, better half. This
Okay.
is by far my better half. This is Risa Jean Hillman. She's from the mountains in North Carolina.
Oh, we won't hold that against you. That's beautiful country out there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. If you would do the invocation, we appreciate it.
Well, I'm just going to set up right here. That's what I've done the last few times.
That's good.
And I'm always glad to be here with you all. Appreciate you having me. This means a lot. And Happy New Year, first of all. Happy 23. It kind of sounds weird. I remember 1985 when we had that one. I was a kid, just out of school, and I thought how weird for some reason 1985 sounded, but 2023 sounds kind of weird to me also. And I still wish people Happy New Year right up until when we get to the 1st of February, because then it's kind of passed us by. But I was reading statistically, and I won't take up too much time, but how, of course, New Year's Eve, we're all full up and excited, and we've got these resolutions in hand, and then we get to January 3rd, 4th, maybe January 6th, and get to the end of January, it's starting to lose its luster. We still say Happy New Year, but when we get into February, I was just reading not long ago, statistically, we've got in place these resolutions, and it's the same old, same old. We get to about February, we want to drop 20 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever it is. We get to about February, and it's almost like the devil starts to work on us a little bit. All of a sudden, that neon sign of this fast food restaurant or even this all-you-can-eat restaurant starts to look better and better to us all of a sudden. And that's what will happen. We will all of a sudden start to sway in our resolutions. There's a sign in Blackstone Church, and you may have seen it. It says, "Your resolution, give God the solution." And I even preached right around the 1st, that Sunday right after that, and I said, our resolutions, whatever they have, they're writing God's book. God's going to address. We don't need to go to a self-help aisle or a bookstore or anything like that. We got everything we need right here in God's Word. So in this 2023, I want you all to stop, all of us, trying so hard, us, for these resolutions to be accomplished. We had kind of recent a tough time in 2022. We've got an old farmhouse in Saluda, kind of, Saluda, Middle Peninsula, kind of near the Urbana Oyster Festival, that region. We've had this old farmhouse for sale on the market for about a year, more than a year, months and months and months, and we are in prayer because my salary, a lowly Baptist preacher, that takes us so we go and sweep the floors, we go and put new air fresheners in, and we're trying to do what we can, and we get listings when people are seeing it, and there's no contract. Nothing is happening. So I want to remind us to kind of get out of our own ways and let God go to work in this 2023 in terms of these resolutions, these things that we feel that we need to take place. See, if you think about it, we can't do much of anything at all anyway. On our own, we can't do much of anything at all. I go to Mark, and he says it well in chapter 10, verse 22nd, when he says, it's with God that all things are possible. Not me, not my will, not my way. I'd like to mention that I think in this day and age, we sort of mess up the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We've replaced it with me, myself, and I. And that's where I believe, I'm speaking about myself, Mr. Pastor Man. That's where we go astray. And I see it I see it all over the place. I see that throughout the world. Certainly in America, I see it right here in our beloved. Right here. I see it all the time. I want to go to Scripture. I want to read, see if I need my glasses. I'm going to stick with Matthew tonight as far as the New Testament goes. Let's see if you all have heard this one before. Therefore, when Jesus starts with that, you know that this is a teaching that's a continuation. This comes from probably his most famous Sermon on the Mountain. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not your life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? The word of God for the people of God. Mentioned to us, listen, see, in my travels in ministry, and I go all over the place, it never fails for me to recognize that we don't have a devil problem. See, Jesus whooped the devil a long time ago with the cross and then the empty tomb. And I will say, Mr. Pastor, that the devil used to keep me up at night. I used to get night sweats. And I was concerned about what he was doing to thwart, to halt my advancing the gospel. But since I'm all full in, since this book got a hold of me, I ain't been right ever since. And once that occurs, I think the devil was more concerned about me. He's afraid of me, what I'm up to. So, and that's what's going to happen to all of us. So I mentioned we really don't have a devil problem. We've got a sin problem. And we don't have to look too far. If we like to say our Samaria is right here in Nottoway, we can see sin right and left, up and down. If we're, come on, we're going to be honest. We don't have to look too far. We don't have to do that. Romans chapter 3, verse 23 says, all have sinned, and we all fall short of the glory of God. We are, keep that root word fall, we are a fallen people. We are. If not for the grace of God, Ecclesiastes 7, verse 20 reminds us very aptly, there is not a righteous man among us. Not a one. Not a righteous man on earth who does what is right and never sins. Spencer Wallace, I remember, someone I was talking to you all about. That's the church I go to. Someone will ask, well, Pastor, what church do you pastor? Spencer Wallace's church. Oh, okay, that place in Darville. Little old bustling Darville. Spencer Wallace, I may have mentioned to you all before standing here. He's got a unique little saying he likes to tell people. Now, for those of you who know Spencer, he's big as a barn and has a heart to match. Well, Spencer also has 101 ailments with him. And you go up to him, Spencer, how you doing? He says the same line every time. I ain't no good. And if I haven't mentioned that to you all before, that will preach every Sunday. I ain't no good. See, we ain't no good. We ain't worth a blood nickel apart from the Word of God. That's the trouble right now in churches, there's room at the end. God is not as relevant as God once was. So, thing is, we love to bicker more. We like to argue more. We love to love a lot less. That's the problem. Therein lies the problem. See, in 2023, let me wrap up here. My God is all about new beginnings. Right now. So if you're looking for your miracle, oh, he's got your miracle, I suggest we all just kind of get out of the way. Let him go to work. I don't even bother with resolutions anymore because I know my resolutions are to be found right in here. If it's finance, if it is food related, I don't care what it is, I can find you scripture. For either the old book or the new book, the gospel is going to address it. So this idea of new beginnings, let's look to find ours. Today, I'll remind us when God speaks, nothing remains the same. Nothing. Nothing remains the same. And again, this is the Word of God, and that's all I need to go to right here. I want to wrap up before we pray by saying, Reese and I got out of the same way. We've had this house on the market. I'd say a year and a half, and boy, what a strain. And today we got a contract, which sounds like a viable, good contract. And I don't know God's timing. I do know this, it's perfect. I do know this, we were coming here to address you all tonight. He may have had it in order to say something to you all about this. So my resolution is right here. I just give it to him. Amen?
Amen. Amen.
Let us go to God. Father God, your timing is perfect. Always has been. I would ask that starting with me, and maybe that would trickle to all of us, that we just kind of get out of the way and let you do what it is that you do. Thy will, not my will, be done. Father God, I ask that you would put a big old blessing on all the folks in this room. There might be some folks who are here, with something that's anxiety-ridden. They've got something on their hearts, as we all do. I ask that you just put their hearts and their minds to peace, letting them know that you too, right here, right now, are at work on their behalf. There's a gentleman right up here, Father, Mr. Costin. I ask that you put a big blessing on his father-in-law. We don't have to go into detail because you know every detail about everything that he needs right now. Comfort the entire family. Oh, Father, let us just now give it to you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Reverend, I hope God keeps continue blessing your ministry, and we thank you very much tonight. Nice meeting you, ma'am. All right, we've honored God. Now let's honor our country. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Follow along on the agenda, and we try to get enough copies of the agenda so you can follow along. If you're new here, please get one out front, and if you don't have one, we'll try to get you one as soon as possible. Do you have any extras, Andrea? Okay, so if somebody wants one, please go with it. Following the agenda along now, so approval of the agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, staff would recommend approval of the agenda with one amendment, which appears under your updated amendment under closed session, the addition of section 2.2, 3711A1, assignment and performance of specific employees, county employees specifically related to personnel matters now pending in county administration.
All right, so we're looking at an addition to the agenda. I'm also now looking for, asking for a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
Mr. Chairman, I got one question here. And last thing I want to do is start us off for closed session with any. Bottom line is we're going into closed session about regarding water services options.
Okay.
It's just my opinion, and I don't know how many of you on this board here, but I've been getting rear end blessings from 4 entities. That's the 3 towns and the citizenry about going into closed session about water services. Now, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows where Blackstone stands, where Crew stands, where Burkeville stands, where the state stands, where Prince Edward stands. I feel like we should not take anything about water-related services into closed session. I think any of that should be added to either unfinished business or new business.
Okay.
I'd like to defer to council. Andrew?
It's a matter of discretion with the board. I mean, at this point, you're on agenda amendments, and I take that as a motion to amend the agenda to take it off of closed session. Put it on the main. If there's a second and a vote, then the agenda can be amended, and it won't be in the closed session agenda anymore.
I'll second it to get it on the floor for discussion.
All right, I have a second for floor to get discussion. The only discussion you consider is not with the addition of what Mr. Costin is
Correct.
taking that one off. Mr. Rourke, I too have been getting comments about us going in closed session discussing water, okay? And we do need to be as transparent as possible. We did and for the audience too to understand, we did a thing called Water Authority white paper, and in that we did that because sometimes I felt like we were, in my opinion, we were talking in circles, and so we asked to put that out to get a feel from our towns, who we represent, and others as well. In that white paper, I do recall, and y'all help me out, it was something at the end, the conclusion that whatever we do, it would be in collaboration with the towns. Is that how y'all recall that?
Yes.
Well, Burkeville, I'm talking about Burkeville now. Burkeville is, and the town council is totally against us starting a water authority, getting into the water business, or whatever. They are totally against it. And so, I'm speaking candidly here. I'm not planning to. I can't. I mean, the people I represent, and so they are asking me to stay complete out of any type of water authority. But I think the purpose of that white paper was to pretty much get a feel of how people felt and our options of what we could do. Right? Pretty much options. How does other board members feel for discussion? I mean.
I've had concerns expressed to me as well. On the surface, to me, it seems like if all of the locales in the county are involved, it's something that collaboration would be important. And I think it creates suspicion, the fact that we keep going into closed session. Mr. Costin, can you provide reasons for us that we should be having these discussions in closed session?
Because at the point we are now, if you're still looking at options, and one of the options right now is how do we go about looking at that, and it might involve the retention of a engineering firm. And again, it's not any particular engineering firm. We would have to go through appropriate procurement, and it would be to have an independent assessment on all the other engineering firms. There are probably about 4 or 5 different engineering firms that are all saying go this way, go that way. Here's the best thing to do. Here's the best thing to do. This was proposed to go in tonight to discuss those options to see if you wanted to pursue obtaining your own engineering firm to look at it independently and get a determination as to the practicality of an authority option. but not just an authority option, but perhaps a regional option, perhaps just a county option with some of the towns. Ms. Simmons and I have been regularly attending. We talked about working with the towns. It's been talked about working with the towns, and we had a good little effort going there for a while until one of the towns dropped out. And the other 2 towns in the county are still trying to engage and have discussions with the to see what's the appropriate thing to do. I can go either way with this. I think that there are some potential procurement issues that might come up, and again, when you're having your conversations out in the public, your procurement options can be worked against you.
Well, before we reach the point of getting into the procurement process or negotiations with a firm, don't you think including all of the locales and discussions to get to that point would be of some value?
Yes, and again, the 3 localities have come, the 3 towns in the county have come together until one town dropped out. And another town has chosen to pursue itself independently. Another town has said, well, kind of keep us out of it, but they're still engaging in some of the issues, which is fine, to keep the conversation going. That's basically what I could tell you. The towns have asked the county to lead, and I guess I'll just have to be candid here. The towns have asked the county to lead, but each town has specified how they want the county to lead. And I think the county needs an independent analysis on what's the best option for them.
The town of Burkeville had nothing about leading. Okay, I don't know what kind of conversation you've had, Ted, but my conversation with the town of Burkeville is they don't want us there is no collaborative with the county.
Mr. Simmons, you've been,
Well,
and Mr. Rourke, you've been in the one of the earlier
The
meetings.
meetings that we went to earlier, all 3 towns were in agreement. Later on, Burkeville pulled out, and Burkeville went kind of their own way. To me, Crew has kind of pulled out too. And my thing is, we want to do a water authority, but what water do we have authority over for the county?
Well, if I can follow up on that, all right, and since that original meeting that they were talking about that even I attended, I think y'all may have attended one or 2
couple more sets.
with the counts. All right, Burkeville stepped away, and since that time, we drafted that white paper that included collaboration. That was, even though Burkeville was away, the intent was to collaborate with all 3 towns. And going in the closed session does not appear to be anything in a collaborating effort. So, and I understand what they're saying, and Ms. Shuckers, and I absolutely agree with you. If it comes to a point that we need to negotiate, that's when we should be in closed session. Also, just to be very candid here, the 2 towns that have access to water said they don't want to be part of a water authority. Just my personal opinion, I don't think we ought to spend another penny of the taxpayers' dollars pursuing any efforts, legal or otherwise, unless a town decides to give up a water source. I think we are absolutely wasting the taxpayers' money because let's say Crew decided to give up their infrastructure. By the time they unincorporated, then we could put a water authority in place. Then we would have a system and a water source, but until that time, I think we're wasting the taxpayers' money. Now, that may be too many details straying off from this, but that's just kind of.
Well, okay, so I hear Mr. Costin said, so let's do this, board. Let's take it off the table tonight. Mayor Green has reached out to me tonight and said he wanted to have this conversation to get, making sure that east and west side of the counties are communicating well and that kind of thing. And I may put that as a subject matter just to have a discussion with him and see how him and the town of Blackstone feels. And if they feel that there's no, when they don't want us to get involved as an option, that's who we represent, then let's stop it. We'll just say we're not going to do it anymore. And because if we do go in closed session, we need to come out and tell people what we're going to do. Right?
And I agree, but to Mr. Costin's point here, if there's something that we should be discussing, the only thing I would say was either put it on unfinished business or new business,
Okay.
if that is something that he wants to move forward with tonight, or if we decide to do this with the 2 amendments, adding the personnel and removing the water option, then you can continue your conversation with Mr. Green with my blessing. I mean, well, that's just how I feel, but I would defer that to you, Mr. Costin, if you want to add this under unfinished business or new business.
That's up to the board to add or not. I just think the conversation we've had here, I don't think there's really anything else that could be added under new business or unfinished business.
Mr. Vaughn, I apologize to you. I didn't give you a chance to speak. Are you okay taking it off the table tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
So I got a motion, and believe me, we're going to start the meeting. Y'all just stay right there. And so I got a motion on the floor by Mr. Rourke, and I got a second for discussion, and I appreciate you doing that too, Ms. Shackleton, to what I'm is taking off the first Code of Virginia 2.23711 was talking about the water service options, that we will go in closed session, do not have any discussion of that. And in addition, what Mr. Costin had added was the Virginia Code 2.23711A1, which is a special performance specific in county personnel. That's the motion. That's the second I have. All in favor? Signify by aye. All right. Any opposed? Any further discussions? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rourke, and thank you, Mr. Costin. Flipping back over now. Approval. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes. It looks like we had a work session. It was from the school board December 8th, regular monthly meeting December 15th, and an organizational meeting January 9th.
Move that we receive and adopt.
All right, I got a motion, Mr. Vaughn. Can I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion, any amendments? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, ayes have it. All right, going down, delegations from the public. I do have a couple of people tonight. There is a 5-minute limit, and I'm never late when I go places because I say 5-minute-ish, okay? I go to church, I get there at 10-ish, but anyway, can't do that at work, but it works at other places. What I'm asking you to do, stay within the 5 minutes. I took the clock down because I've gotten criticism. It's very distracting. It's distracting for the audience. It's very distracting for the board because we're looking at it and we're not listening. And I'm taking my cell phone. The sheriff says, "Where's your cell phone?" I said, "Out in the vehicle." So I'm trying to get rid of distractions so we can really listen to what you're saying and try to help answer some of these questions and the concerns the citizens have. Tonight's your night, and I want to give you as much time as possible. But I also got to keep it simple, keep it. So when you get around the 5-minute-ish, I'm going to probably say, can you give me a conclusion, and let's move the meeting on if you don't mind. So saying that, Mr. Sonny Abbott, Little Creek Road, not Bible Road, like I said last night. I apologize to you, sir. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, Mr. Costin. Excuse me. I haven't moved. I still live on Little Creek. I have one brief question, and I know I'll be a lot less than 5 minutes. Should this year be different than previous years? I feel there are a limited number of ways to achieve a different start to the new year. Now relax. Let's take a deep breath. This won't be followed with a lengthy list of issues that are current or were previously raised. Now, I haven't given up on trying to obtain answers to questions. That should be obvious. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
When you held the chair previously, citizens got an answer to some of their questions, either from the board or from the administrator. Of course, you held that chair years ago. As we proceed month to month, I will respectfully ask questions as I have in the past. It won't be my intent to make anyone look bad, more to understand, to propose, or to clarify. The focus is to understand why questions are asked, and there should be methods to provide answers to every citizen that comes before the board. I believe things need to be different in 2023 because in the entire year, in all of 2022, this board ignored me and numerous other citizens. I wasn't alone in that. When they appeared, as I am tonight, and responses to questions were extremely lacking. If there was any follow-up after a meeting, it's extremely difficult to recall. Now, I say these words with respect. I hope they will be taken in the way intended. Those of us who ask legitimate questions need to be given the courtesy of a response. Now, what happened yesterday might make what I've just said irrelevant or unnecessary. Because, Mr. Chairman, you asked a citizen if he had the questions that he had previously asked to hand them so that he could get responses. If that is going to be the policy, I applaud what you're attempting to do. So we can make 2023 a year of two-way communication, not just ask without an answer. I appreciate your attention and thanks for listening.
If you don't mind, Mr. Abbott, stay at the podium. Just if anybody has any clarification or points of clarification, I would like to give that time to you. Okay.
I do. Mr. Abbott, I realize that I hear what you're saying, and I have heard that request almost monthly from you. What I'd like to propose is that I know, and the last thing I want to do is put more work on staff, but we're here for the citizens, okay? So what I'd like for the board to consider is, can we provide a sheet moving forward, a simple sheet, because sometimes citizens come up with the phone that don't have a prepared statement. Can we provide a sheet that they can write their name, phone number, and email down on, and even the question, and before the citizens leave, if they would be kind enough to turn it over to Ms. Tomer or Ms. Kelly there, and that could be turned over to staff to get answers, because I know it was the intent of the staff to get these questions answered. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to do that, and this way there's a form of accountability, but also it's asking the citizens to go an additional step, even though you've asked a question here, but it gives us the opportunity to make sure this doesn't get
I thank you for that. I can tell you, in my case, I provide a copy of the written word that I speak from every month that I say it. Last night was an exception. I spoke extemporaneously, which is something I do not normally do. And the reason that I don't do that is when someone says, well, that's not what you said, I can provide a document to show it is what I said. But I appreciate what you're saying. And Mr. Chairman, if it becomes policy, that's a great step in handling things in 2023.
Yeah, and Mr. Abbott, and the citizens. So, and this is a point of clarification. I might refer to council on this one too. I mentioned last night when I gave the questions. I said, and be quite frankly, sometimes you ask questions, I don't know the answer. Oh. Okay. And so, but I'm hoping our staff can find the answer, dig it up. And so the point I'm trying to make is, last night, let's use that for an example. I wanted Mr. Ingram to get his questions answered, and we get co-copied. But what we have to be careful with, if we start making comments, Mr. McRoberts, you can help me out on this, it can become a meeting. Is that correct? If we...
Well, that's right. I mean, if you got more than two of y'all basically discussing the public's business.
But we can be co-copied and look at the information, and if I need to comment to Mr. Abbott, I can just send him the email directly and say something, but not to the board members. Is that
yeah,
okay?
You have to be careful of that creating.
Okay, so that's something that I guess I shy because I got to be careful with the point of procedure. But I'm just telling you, that's anyway. We're gonna try to improve that.
Thank you. I appreciate the effort. I have suggested in previous comments, time, place. I'm willing to meet, talk, exchange, understand. I'll do all of those things in a better way to understand and comprehend what it is that I believe citizens and myself need from our elected officials.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Anybody, anything? Okay, thank you, Mr. Abbott. All right, we got one more person on the, to sign up for the delegation of the public, Ms. Sue Yates from the town of Crew. Thank you, Ms. Yates, and thank you for fixing our microphone.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I'd like to begin my remarks by commending you, Steve, as chair, for reversing the strict time adherence policy put in place prior to Ted Costin. This good faith effort to ensure citizens' voices is welcomed. And you did a good job at last night's meeting. After attending the meeting last night and perusing the comprehensive plan, I agree with the overwhelming majority of speakers that solar industrial tracts have no place in Nottoway County. However, since the board has chosen to include solar in the comp plan, it is apparent you intend to move ahead with a technology that is not yet viable for the benefit of a few wealthy landowners and the county coffers, which prompted one speaker last night to call your moves a shell game. It was interesting to learn that the first solar application was entertained by Ronnie Rourke. I have heard Mr. Rourke also became a lobbyist for the applicant after leaving his 46 years as administrator. This in no way comes as a shock to anyone. The citizens of Nottoway are hopeful that with a new administrator, the years of neglect and literal rotting of government facilities this county suffered for 46 years would begin to be righted. Instead, organic economic growth remains at a standstill, which has been exacerbated because you allowed the comp plan that we paid for you to become a year past due. A year, mind you, that we have paid a director of economic development with no ROI because there has been no plan. I come before you tonight, now that you have a comp plan, which Mr. Rash pointed out, has lofty ideals and poetic-like descriptions of preserving our county, but no clear direction of how this will be achieved. I come to you to ask what deliverables you are attaching to this plan and what is your timeline to get there. Do you have an agenda, and when will you be sharing it with the public? It is my sincere hope that your only plan to create revenue isn't a quick fix that entails raping our land by destroying the beauty of Nottoway, our forest and farmlands. Thank you. And real quick, I would like to make a real quick comment about what you said tonight about closed sessions. Having been on council for a couple years, it's real easy to hide things in closed sessions, things that really should be before the public. And I encourage everyone, every elected official, to keep everything as public as it can possibly be, because it creates a real environment of distrust. I mean, here I am, I know, and the citizens should know that if we don't straighten out this water, Crew's water rates could triple. That's a huge hit for the citizens of Crew. And I really encourage the county, and I'm going to say particularly you, Steve, and Ted Costin, to do whatever efforts you have to and make strides to bring our three towns together. Okay. We have to start operating in conjunction with one another. So I'm not meaning to take a lot of time, and I just wanted to say that, but we don't need two stadiums. We only need one in the county, for instance. Yeah. We need to work in collaboration with one another and become friendly with one another as towns. And so I would wish that you all would do that and keep things as public as possible.
All right. Well, thank you for the comments, and stay at the podium for a minute. And I want to do a point of clarification first. We do have rules of procedure. I'm sticking with the 5 minutes, but I'm trying to, if you can wrap it up, because every time people come up here, they have a conclusion. So I like for them to give them their conclusion. It wraps everything up. And I want this time, and like the clock stops right now, because the time is, we point of a clarification and that type of thing, because the board might have questions too, so we can listen to your comments. And it's just like, you made a comment about the comprehensive plan. I mean, Mr. Rourke said it before and said it last night. The comprehensive plan is a living document, okay? And we've been putting the document on the shelf. So I don't think we're gonna get that comprehensive plan perfect, but we need to get it out. And then like John said, we can make changes as we go. And because when you have a goal, and like Mr. Abbott had mentioned last night, you need a strategic plan on how you're gonna meet that goal. Well, I have an idea, you have an idea, the whole 14 members of the planning commission had an idea. So that's why we did make it generic in some ways. I get it. And, but we need to hone it down, I get you too, and say, okay, if we're gonna do this, what's the plan to make it happen? But the goal is to make that thing not get dust on it on the shelf, and we pull it out every once in a while, and probably we ought to do it at least 2 or 3 times in a year and say, what are we failing at? What's not working? And I think that takes work sessions to do that anyway. And I'm gonna need a lot of guidance from our county staff as well. So, any comments from the board?
No, you pretty much summed it up right
Can I
there.
make a quick response?
Yes, ma'am.
I spoke explicitly to the solar.
Totally, yes,
the
you
solar,
did. You
okay.
did. Right.
And I spoke with John today, and the comment I made to John was, and he's trying to sell us all. I know what you're doing, John. He's trying to sell us on the fact that whatever's in the comp plan can be taken out. It can be amended. I get that. I understand that. But I submit to you all that it is much easier to add something to the agenda than to try to take something away.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Yates. And so for that, with the rest of the citizens, and you hear me interested in government, this is the time that we hear delegations of public. If you have something that's really in the back of your mind or something that bothers you, this is your time to come and talk to us, and we listen to your comments and try to rectify the problem that you're having. All right. So with that said, we have 3 public hearings tonight. It looks like 2. The first one is Stokes. Mr. Zodi, would you introduce the public hearing before we open?
Yes, sir. I do have a caveat for the first one. This is Stokes special exception request on Piney Green Road. The Planning Commission heard this last month, or last week, my mistake. And there came to light some information that I wasn't aware of and that wasn't contained in the report. And the Planning Commission, as a result, continued the meeting until the February 14th date. As such, I would like to request that the Board of Supervisors continue this meeting until after the Planning Commission meeting on the 14th.
And that's the Stokes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
What's the date?
14th.
Sir, I know you raised your hand. You were at the, Mr. Wilson?
I want to ask that you all terminate that request. The reason why is because, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do have a copy.
All right, well, hold on for a minute. We are out of procedure now, so, and it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, because it's 2 sides, and they put an application in. So the public he didn't come up to the microphone, so I want the public to hear, and we got to stream. He wants us to terminate that request. We cannot do that, okay?
Can I say this real quick?
Just one more thing, sir, one more thing.
It's already a family cemetery. That's what I want to show you a copy.
All right, well, when we,
Taxpayer money before he.
all right, that's not, okay, so I need you, I need you, when we open the public hearing, you can say, oh,
Was a few seconds behind.
but we're not even having a public hearing tonight. We done stopped it. We're not even open it. So when we have it, you can have your comments at the podium, okay? All right. And no, we're not. The sheriff ain't taking nobody here tonight. We need you. and we want it to be right, okay? So I get what you're trying to do, and you're very passionate about it, and you made some good points at the Planning Commission and after the Planning Commission meeting. But we did put Mr. Zodi on this project, and if his recommendation is to postpone it, I like for the board to consider. Do we have to vote for that?
Yes, I would recommend. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the staff's recommendation, is vote to defer this public hearing until your next regular meeting, which is the 16th.
Okay, because you said 14th.
That's when the Planning Commission resumes.
Oh, so it got to go back to the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm entertaining a motion, and you know we're dealing with some problems with this request. I'm entertaining a motion to defer this public hearing, so it go back in front of the Planning Commission on the 14th, and of course, we're gonna make sure that everybody has their say in this. Can I get a motion?
We will remand, I move that we remand this back to the planning commission.
All right, and it'll be talked about on the 14th. Can I get a second?
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Right.
Technically, to avoid re-advertising of the public hearing and save us some money, it really needs to be a deferral of the public hearing until the board's hearing on the 16th.
To the 16th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, okay, I got you. Because the 14th, the Planning Commission has already had the public hearing.
Correct.
And we have to have our public hearing. Okay. All right, I need you to retract that motion, Mr. Vaughn.
I so move.
All right, so we tracked this motion.
Yeah.
Let me bring it out the woods again. I'm entertaining a motion to defer the public hearing until the February 16th at the Board of Supervisors meeting in this courtroom at 7 o'clock. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
Got a motion, Mr. Vaughn. Is that in your district, sir? You know, I don't matter. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, I got a motion, Mr. Vaughn, and I got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you.
What I would like to say is that staff will send out adjacent property notices as well.
And Mr. Zodi, before we go to the next one, would you please have good communication with this gentleman and make sure that he knows what we're doing and why we're doing it, if you don't mind?
Will do.
Okay? All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on that point, by state law, the board cannot act on a zoning request until it has received a planning commission recommendation, one way or the other.
Okay.
So basically, this is buying time for the planning commission to make that recommendation to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Zodi, and I appreciate it. All right. Following the agenda, we're going to the special exception number 2, which is the Lumpkin one. Mr. Zodi, before I ask for a motion to go in a public hearing, would you introduce that to us?
Yes, sir. This is a special exception request by the Lumpkin family and the mother, Birdsong. The application is located on 1388 Rocky Ford Road, tax map number 29-166. It's on 2.31 acres. The applicant requests the placement of a double-wide manufactured home on a parcel that was subdivided upon review and approved by staff as a family subdivision on August 2nd, 2022. The newly created lot contains, as I mentioned before, 2.31 acres. The approved plat is currently not visible on the GIS. The applicant submitted a 3-lot family subdivision on August 2nd, 2022. Basically reiterating what I said before about the lot size and the tax map number. Staff reviewed and approved the plat. The applicant again seeks to place a manufactured home on the double wide on the newly created parcels. The site is zoned rural residential, which is why it's coming before you, because you have to seek a special exception outside of the agricultural zoning district to place a mobile home, a manufactured home, double wide, single wide on a parcel. Okay, just for a little education. Currently, there are no structures on the site, and the applicant is, again, proposing double wide, and it is located in the residential district in the future land use map, and so it does comport with the intention of the comprehensive plan. Staff went through all 37 findings, and I came to the conclusion that I recommend approval for the applications, subject to some conditions I'll get to in a second. The Virginia Department of Health has received applications for septic and well permits. The Virginia Department of Transportation recommends constructing a low-volume commercial entrance for the family subdivision. So, beginning with findings number 1, the special exception is granted for the placement of the double-wide manufactured home. This special exception may be revoked by Nottoway County or by its designated agent for failure to comply with any of the listed or amended conditions made by staff, the Planning Commission, and/or Board of Supervisors. 3, must have septic and well permits approved by the Health Department prior to occupancy per section 2.2-3-7 of the zoning ordinance, And fourth, secure an entrance, a low-volume commercial entrance permit from the Virginia Department of Transportation prior to the placement of the dwelling unit. And that's basically the entirety of my staff report. I would like to mention that staff did not receive any phone calls or emails from adjacent property owners remonstrating this particular petition.
All right, so you heard the introduction and with some conditions, you're going to give that was the conditions that you just talked about a little while ago, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm entertaining a motion to go into the public hearing for the special exception of Lumpkin.
So moved.
I got a motion from Mr. Rourke and Ms. Simmons is properly second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we're in an open public hearing for this special exception. Anybody here, I would like to hear from somebody. If the family raised their hand that's asking for this, or anybody, are they here? Do you want to come to the podium and make a statement? Yeah, come on. Oh, no, thank you? Okay, all right. Is anybody here against this request? All right, hearing none. I'm entertaining a motion to go back in, to come out of the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing for the special exception request from Lumpkin.
All right, I hear
Second that motion.
got a motion from Mr. Rourke and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. With that, do I have a motion? You hear the staff recommendation. The staff recommendation is to approve this, and we hear no opposition, no letters, no emails.
No, sir.
I move to approve the special exception permit for Lumpkins. That is my district.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
we got a motion. We got a motion from Ms. Simmons to approve the special exception from the Lumpkin special exception, and I heard Mr. Rourke first say gave a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same size. Ayes have it. It's been approved. Thank you for your work on that, Mr. Zodi.
You're welcome, sir.
But you ain't done yet.
I figured.
I can ain't a word, but I love saying it, you know. All right. Okay, the next, you introduce us to the special exception of, is it Moreno? Am I saying that right?
Moreno.
Or Moreno, okay.
This is a similar request to Mr. and Ms. Lumpkin and family. This is a special exception request. The site location is on Mount Nebo, behind Mount Nebo Church on 476 Mount Nebo Road on a 10.58 acre parcel known as tax map number 42-42. The applicant requests the placement of a double-wide manufactured home on the parcel. The parcel and immediate area are zoned conservation. This site, as all adjacent property, is zoned commercial, not commercial, conservation, excuse me. There are currently no structures on the site. This is located in the conservation district according to the future land use map, and this does comport with the future land use map. Again, staff went through the 37 findings of fact, and we came to the conclusion based on the health department having the applications for septic and well permits, and VDOT's having no objections to the special exception request. The staff does recommend approval based on the conditions below. Number one, special exception is granted for the placement of a double-wide manufactured home. This special exception may be revoked by Nottoway County or its designated agent for failure to comply with any of the listed or amended conditions made by staff, the Planning Commission, and/or Board of Supervisors. Third, must have septic and well permits approved by the Health Department prior to occupancy. Again, Section 2-2-7 of the zoning ordinance. Fourth, secure driveway permit from Virginia Department of Transportation. And I would like to mention, Chair, that both this one and the previous one, Lumpkin, received unanimous support from the Planning Commission. They recommended approval.
Okay.
Again, I did not receive any calls
Right.
or any emails remonstrating against this particular project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zodi.
You're welcome.
You got an introduction of this special exception Moreno. I'm entertaining a motion to go in, to open up the public hearing for this special exception.
So move.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Vaughn. Can I get a proper second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. So we do have a motion to open a public hearing. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same signs. The public hearing is now open for this special exception. Anybody here just want to speak forward? I think it's gentlemen. Stop grinning. You don't have to grin about it. Come on up front. Introduce yourself. You don't get this chance often. You know, no newspapers here. It's a good time to do it.
But you are on YouTube.
What's your name?
Eliseo Moreno.
All right. Thank you for coming tonight. Lisa.
Thank y'all for having me and, hearing this. Me and my wife and my son, we're looking forward to putting a, manufactured home on the property.
Okay.
This is something we've been pursuing for quite some time. We finally got the land, got everything paid off, and we're at that point where we can pursue a home. So that's what we're looking forward to doing.
And we're tickled that you're pursuing a home here in Nottoway County.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Is it on the new church side or the old church side?
The new church side.
New church, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any more comments about this? All right. All right. With no comments, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All right. We've got a motion to close it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got it properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I'm entertaining a motion to approve
So move.
Mr. Marino's special exception. We got a motion from Mr. Vaughn, and can I get a properly second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same signs. Okay, it's been approved. Mr. Marino, thank you so much. I hope it wasn't too cumbersome to do that, but it's a process. But thank you. Good, and thank you, and welcome to Nottoway County. But, since we got you up here, Mr. Zodi, real quick, I saw Ms. Pettis. She's a new member of a planning commission. I didn't introduce her last night. Where is she at? So thank you, Ms. Pettis. Yeah, y'all get. I'm telling you, you clapped for them last night, but I'm kind of concerned because Ms. Pettis just got on, and then it's been a lot of work, and I probably told you it ain't a lot of work, but it is a lot of work. So, but thank you for joining our team, and we really appreciate your expertise. We really do. Thank you. All right. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Zodi?
No, sir.
All right. Enjoy your evening, but don't go anywhere yet. All right. We're going to presentation. So we've been audited. Fiscal year 21-22. Mr. Lee, Robinson, Farmer, and Cox. We appreciate you coming tonight, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight to present the audit. As in past years, the county has received an unmodified opinion on their financial statements. This year, there were no weaknesses or deficiencies noted in the internal control letter. And the compliance, federal compliance this year, everything went fine. And this year, as major programs, we audited the ESSER programs that the schools have, as well as the second half of your CARES Act expenditures. One thing following up from last year's internal control comments, we mentioned that we needed a little better work on posting accruals to the financial, or at least to the general ledger, so we could get them into the financial statements. We've marked a check on that, and we've taken that off, so we just applaud the work that the county administrator's office did getting through that. So anyway, that's a follow-up on that. ARPA money, I don't think you spent any ARPA money through June 30th of 2022. So all of it was what would be called reserved or unearned. And so that amounted to about $3 million that you will be spending in the next few years, maybe this year, whatever, but that money doesn't get recognized as revenue until it actually gets spent. And so when you look at your financial statements, just remember there's $3 million out there in federal money that's not included in that bottom line.
And what do we have, like 2026 to spend, 2024?
I think you've got 4 years, yeah.
4 years, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's just another, wanted to point that out to you. Also this year, we had a new GASB, GASB 87, which included putting leases on financial statements, not just finance leases, but leases of property that you may be receiving money for, or leases of equipment that you may be paying a vendor for, copier, whatever. A lot of work was done to get this onto the financial statements. You hired a consultant to assist with that. All in all, I would say we've complied. It really didn't add anything significantly one way or the other to your fund balance or net position, but it was a lot of work getting there. So just would just mention that. Tax collection percentage this year was about 96%, just right at it. And I've got a 10-year table in the back. It generally varies from 96, 98 to 100. So we looked at probably to come up next year. But anyway, that's where you were. You need to know, I always think when you're doing your budget, if you put out a levy, what your chances of collecting that are.
It seemed like 96 is a little lower than it used to.
It's a little bit lower than it has been, but probably only by about a point.
Okay.
Maybe a point and a half. So, and on that 10-year scale, you've been close to that low before. So.
Right. Okay.
Other than that, I'd take any questions that the board may have of me.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Lee, right now?
I do have one. So you have not found the jaws out back where the money's buried?
Excuse me?
You ain't found the jaws out back where the money's buried?
No, sir. If they are, they're not on this
Darn
financial table.
He always makes me nervous when he asks second things. Anyway, no. How about you, Mr. Vaughn? Anything you want to add? Ms. Shackleton? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
Paul, would you mind GASB for folks?
It's Governmental Accounting Standards Board. That's the regulatory body that oversees the compilation or what's presented in your audit report. And so to have an audit done in governmental standards, you have to comply with their regulations. They started out with 1 to 10 many years ago. Now they're up to 87 or beyond. So they're adding on regulations at this point.
All right. You didn't think we knew that, did you?
I was just making sure everybody knew that.
He's only acting like he did.
I was trying to act like I knew it.
I came from VITA, where they have lots of acronyms.
A lot of acronyms, I get it.
I would also like to point out the kudos that Mr. Lee gave actually go over there to Ms. Tomer. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Tomer. Good.
Very good.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
And Ms. Tomer, it would be appropriate for the board to accept the audit, which they have received under separate cover.
Okay. So entertain a motion to accept the audit.
So moved.
This has been presented.
Second.
I got a motion to accept it. I got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. But if the general public wants to see that, how do they get their hands on it?
We have copies at our office, and we can post it to the internet. I think we have
It'll
passed
probably
it on the website.
Be
in the
good
past.
business, good transfer. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's some financial people out there who really they look at it very deep. So
Once it's been accepted, we can post it.
thank you,
Very
sir.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
As
All right.
As it's no longer proposed or a draft.
All right. Ms. Bryant, I know you're excited to get up here and give us a presentation on the 6-year plan amendment. So that's scary. Thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Members of the board, Mr. Costin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We had two items come up recently, and because it was so close to the 6-year plan, we were looking at just doing it through that process. But I put a packet before you, and I want to explain to you a little bit about those two projects and the reasons for our request. Route 636 Reservation Road in Blackstone. The residency is recommending to surface treat a portion of that, which begins at the current Business 460, which is starts at 0.28 miles from Business 460 and ends about 700 feet from that same point. The request is to minimize the amount of maintenance funds that we currently go through to maintain this little segment of roadway because of the railroad crossing. There's a significant amount of handwork that's required in this location because the large grader equipment that we use to grade that road has to stop short in several different pulls as to not damage the railroad crossing. So there's a lot of handwork that has to go into that. And being that it's an unpaved road, it also, it fills the tracks with stone and everything. So it's, whenever a car or something has to come through there, it's a lot of work to get that through there. So if approved, the road would be graded, the ditches would be reestablished to their original contours. Once all of that is complete, prime and double seal surface treatment would be applied, and it's an approximate cost of $11,000. And if the board is agreeable to do this, this would be a handle to the 6-year plan, and we could easily accomplish this in spring of this year without affecting any projects that are already in the 6-year plan. So this packet is there before you, and it shows pictures of where our current hard surface ends, and the length of this project would be about 700 feet.
Okay.
So it would end just past the current cross pipe that's in that area.
All right. Any questions with Ms. Bryan on that? It looks like the railroad's not using that thing.
They use that stub, Fort Pickett. They have some cars that go in there, so when it is used, they have to go in there and they have to clean out all around those tracks to be able to take something
Mr.
through
Chairman,
there.
members of the board, in your agenda packet, the second photograph and the third photograph are of that road. And you'll see in the second photograph, right in that lower left-hand corner of the photograph, you'll see the tracks and how loaded they are with sediment.
I see it. I see it.
Okay.
And pictures are worth 1,000 words. Ms. Bryant, what you're looking for tonight is that we have to add this to the 6-year amendment to the 6-year plan is what you need tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to
Without
present
I don't need a public hearing.
Well, the public hearing would be through the 6-year plan process. And
Okay.
was originally going to bring it forth earlier, but because we were so close to the 6-year plan, I felt like this would be the opportunity to do that, because we would still have to have a public hearing to be able to add it anyway. So we're so close to the 6-year plan.
Okay. So the motion we need is to add this to the 6-year plan amendment. To add it to the 6-year plan. Am I saying
Yes,
that right?
and agree for us to put it up front at the beginning.
At front, because it's needed.
Yes, and then
That's right, we prioritize, excuse me, I'm sorry, I interrupt you.
Yes.
We prioritized on that 6-year plan, so you need that higher.
Yes, and we would still do our work session in the same manner, and if agreeable, this would be added to that. We would still have our work session. We would make our other recommendations. It would go to public hearing the same as the 6-year plan would.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to remind the board too that, you know, there was a investment in rail spur out there right off of 40, and we don't want to get this one damaged either moving forward. So, and rail spurs help economic development.
All right. Well, I'm entertaining a motion to add this to the 6-year plan and put it at higher priority for VDOT to start this project and work on. Even though I probably it's going to be higher than some of my Burkeville projects, and it's in Blackstone, but we all love each other, don't we, Mr. Green?
It's
we love
actually
each other. We do. Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
not going to affect any
I
projects
know.
that are currently in the plan.
I got to shoot at my new mayor. I got to play with him a little bit. All right.
No. I mean, I'm ready to make. Do you want one motion for both? Do you want to look at the second one first, or do we need separate motions?
I think we'll probably do separate motions. Let's do separate.
Okay. Either way, I move to approve the addition to the Reservation Road as described by Ms. Deanna Bryant, including the elevation of the project into the 6-year plan as top priority.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. I got a second. I'm going to let Mr. Bond have that one. You have it?
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm going to get you in there, Mr. Bond. I'm going to
She's
get you in
from
there.
crew, that's fine, let them do it.
No, that's fine. We got approval. We got a motion. We got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Seems like you got that approval to go forward, Ms. Bryant.
Thank you. Okay, the second route that is in your packet is Route 1020 Custis Street in the town of Crew. The residency is recommending Custis Street from South 4th Street, 500 feet east, to be surface treated. The section of Custis Street was inadvertently omitted from state maintenance over the last few years. It's unclear when the omission began, but a recent citizen inquiry triggered us to do some research, and in fact, this is a state-maintained road. There were no signs up there to signify that it had a route number or anything. The first 500 feet of this road was added to the secondary system in May of 1955, with an additional 250 feet taken into the system in July of 1955. The current end of state maintenance sign is at the end of the 500-foot portion, which is actually hanging on a fence there. The remaining 250 feet of this road is not accessible to public use. Custis Street is located within the town of Crew limits, and this road is currently the only state-maintained road within the town limits that is unpaved. That's why we're bringing it before you now. The base of the road is sturdy, the ditches are in really good shape, and they're functional. If approved, the corridor would have minimal grading of the roadway prism and the ditches prior to any surface treatment. The estimated cost to bring this up and surface treat this road would be about $5,000 to $7,000, depending on the cost of materials at the time. And it could be completed this spring as well in probably less than 2 weeks. Approval of this project, again, would have no impact to the schedule or funding of projects currently in the plan. And the second request would be, if agreeable by the board, VDOT would like to request that the remaining 250 feet that is currently not accessible for public use would be abandoned, as it does not serve any public need. So, if agreeable, the abandonment would be done through a different process. It would not be done through the secondary 6-year plan process. It's a different, it's an abandonment packet that has to go through its own public hearing.
Mr. Chairman.
Right. I'm listening.
Oh, if I may ask Ms. Bryan a question?
Yeah, oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. In the abandonment process, if anybody purchases a home beyond, well, within that 250 feet, will they be able to have services or maintained? In other words, who would be responsible for that moving forward?
Well, currently, when we looked at the adjacent landowners, it's all owned by one landowner.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think we've done this before, too, but then, getting my head wrapped around it, Custer Street, that's the street behind Crew Baptist.
Yes.
Yes.
I probably wore that road out because I took my granddaughter to see the Christmas lights.
This little portion here, South 4th Street, is right across from, like Crew Station. The
Yeah,
little
I'm
piece that
hearing you.
goes right in
Okay,
there.
I got you.
And Custis Street is the very first road to the left.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's a firefighter that lives back there, and he needs some asphalt to get grip to go into those fire calls.
Yeah,
He's spinning his wheels in the dirt.
maybe. Board members, anything y'all want to add? So it sounds like you request the remaining 250 feet of that road to be abandoned, as it currently serves no public need.
Yes.
What I'm reading. Okay.
Yes, that property actually, I spoke to the property owner and got his input on that, and he was agreeable to that. So.
All right.
Is this a two-part request, Ms. Bryant? Part of it being Custis Street east be surface treated, and the abandonment is 2 parts to this?
Yes.
You want to put that in a motion, Ms. Shuckman? Well, I apologize. It's in somebody else's district.
It's somebody else's district,
I should have
please.
I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request as presented by Ms. Deanna Bryant tonight for both the improvements and the abandonment on Custis Road.
All right, had a
Church
motion.
Street, I'm sorry.
Second.
I hear a motion from Mr. Rourke. That motion sounds okay with you, Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Okay. And I hear a second from Ms. Simmons. Crew people, any more comment? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, it sounds like you did your homework too, and I appreciate you getting in touch with the landowners and having a discussion with Ms. Bryant.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
I'll just stay here since I'm.
Yeah,
next on
you
the
can
agenda.
stand up out, and then, you can stay through the whole meeting. We'd love to have you. Please stay. All right, what you got?
Okay, so I wanted to, I wanted to go over a few things. And one of the first things I wanted to ask is that we go ahead and probably plan our work session for the 6-year plan for the March meeting. So if we could plan for that, we could go ahead and get started a little bit early.
Do we normally do that before
For a regular meeting.
a regular meeting? Is how we, I got my calendar up under my foot, y'all. Excuse me. Reason my belly's getting bigger or something's happening. Did I say that out loud? All right,
It's on the internet.
We've noticed.
let me look at my calendar, Ms. Brown. Thank you. So you want to have it in, so, because we got to look at our budget calendar, y'all, so, April's when we approve the budget, normally, April, May.
We're shooting for that.
Okay, I know. You got, state makes a difference too. School, the whole thing. So in February, it'll be, like we talked about tonight, is the 16th, right? And so flipping over, so you're looking at March maybe?
Yes, March.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, remember, we may have an LRA meeting before the regular board meeting that starts at 6:30.
Okay, so yeah, we normally have our LRA meeting at 6:30. So if we want to do this meeting, we'll have to do it at 6 o'clock.
Is 30 minutes enough time?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so full disclosure to all the citizens, so we're looking at having our public hearing, is that?
Work session.
Work session on the 6-year plan, the 16th, March 16th at 6 o'clock in this courtroom. And then 6:30 LRA, and then 7 o'clock the regular board meeting. Does that sound okay with you, Ms.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Do I need that in a motion? You want it? I don't see
No,
it.
you-
Okay, we'll just
no.
put it on the schedule.
Put in the schedule.
Okay.
Okay, so, litter pickup has started just for the primary routes in Nottoway. They started, on Monday this week. The object markers, I don't know if any of you have been down Tyler Road, but that that area was reviewed for guardrail. And because of the cover that's over the pipe, the guardrail posts would be too long and they would go through the pipe. And then there's another option that we could span the pipes, and the pipes are too wide for us to be able to put up guardrail as it is right now. So the suggestion was to install those object markers, which are out there now. When you go out there at nighttime, it lights up like a Christmas tree. So those are in place. You should go by and take a look at them. The safety review for Route 460 and Route 699, which is Simmons Lane, I did provide you a copy of the sketch for the recommendations for that intersection. So that one is complete, and you have the recommended signage. So that is going to be added to our list for installing that. Route 625, Courthouse Road, and Crepe Myrtle Road, those are both still under review for traffic engineering. So as soon as we get the recommendations for that, I'll provide those to you. We held pre-construction meetings for the resurfacing schedules for 2023, and typically we get our 2-week look-aheads on Wednesdays, so I will provide those to you either on Thursday or Friday every week as we get those, so you'll know ahead of time where we're surface treating, slurry seal, latex, and plant mix. There's signs going up on a lot of the bridges you see for emergency vehicle postings. There currently is one that was just put up on the Route 46 bridge, but that just allows the emergency vehicles to be able to cross the bridge at a little bit higher tonnage. Usually it's around 10 tons or so. But there was one just put up on Route 46, so I have had several questions, Mr. Vaughn, actually. was one of those as well, so I wanted to let you know that was on my list to discuss tonight as well. I have no update for the start date on Route 46, but we're a little closer than we were before, so as soon as we get any update or any information on that, I will provide that to the board. Route 723, the hybrid R cut that we're going to do out there, we did post a willingness for a public hearing for that in December. We didn't receive any requests for a public hearing, so that project is moving along with no problem so far. We're hoping to be able to move that up the schedule some. We will be holding a public hearing. I lost my place there for a second. For the roundabout that's going in on Route 40, Military Road. We're probably going to hold that in a couple of months.
Ms. Bryant, Tony, you have the last name?
Haverly.
Haverly.
Yes.
Communicated with me after the conference call the other day, asked if we could, consider willingness. And I've polled the board, and the board would prefer willingness. I know that there was a subsequent conversation from another VDOT official that wanted to do the public hearing, but I haven't been able to, out of the office some today, I haven't been able to communicate to Mr. Haverly, but the board's position is that they would like to, they would prefer to go to willingness to help speed the project along. I'll communicate that to him as well.
Okay. The residency recommends a public hearing on that just because Nottoway County does not have a roundabout. Just giving you the recommendation by the residency. It's still up to the board however they choose to do that. Now, if we post a willingness and citizens ask questions that we cannot answer, then we will still have to go to a public hearing.
And that option was explained to the board.
Okay. And that is all that I had for my report tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is appropriate or not. Ms. Bryan, do you have a recommendation for whether it should go to a public hearing or willingness? I hate to put you on a spot like that, but it's something that, I don't know, this is the first time that I dealt with something like that, and I know that when you mention something like that, I just don't want to leave it open-ended.
Well, because of roundabout, there's no roundabout in Nottoway County.
Right.
The residency recommends a public hearing just because the public hearing will have boards up. It'll show the public what it is, how to drive through it, and everything. And just because there is no roundabout in the county.
Mr. Chairman, she just said a magic word there about how to drive through it. I would suggest, if people are curious, look at what's happening in Farmville on Facebook. And just about several times a week, people are talking about accidents because people don't know how to drive through that roundabout.
You're talking over there, Fish and Pig?
Yeah, somewhere back there. So, and then the other question I would have is, how much time realistically are we saving on a project like this if we go to willingness compared to a public hearing?
Typically, it's a few months.
It's a lot of time.
And we have a lot of,
Accidents.
And I hear what residency recommends, but to me, if they do willingness and you have a lot of comments, it's going to go to public hearing anyway.
Well, normally when we have a willingness, we will post it. We send it to all of the towns. It's posted at the courthouse. And if citizens have questions, they call us. They'll call the designer. And if we can't answer the questions, then we will go to a public hearing. But we do address any questions or anything that comes up during that period. And usually the willingness is about a month long.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the communication that I received asking about, promoting willingness came from the district level, which is the next level up.
Okay. I'd say let's stick to our guns there. Yeah. Okay, we're going to stick with the willingness.
Okay.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Vaughn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, Ms. Bryant, thank you so much for coming tonight. Be careful going home.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sometimes them roads are terrible. That was a pun. All right. So All right, Mr. Costin, you want to go down the department reports till we get to anybody that, like, solid waste and bill inspection?
In your package, you have the solid waste report. Any questions?
None.
Building inspection, erosion and sediment control, any questions?
No.
Animal control, any questions?
No.
Piedmont Health,
No.
library,
No, sir.
school board. I don't see anyone from the school board here this evening.
No, I didn't see her either.
Okay. Social services,
No.
emergency services, Mr.
Yeah.
Hyde, anything?
Mr. Hyde, but emergency services, in case people don't know, that my Buddy Hyde is our emergency services coordinator. Thank you for coming tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Costin, fellow staff and citizens, good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you, sir.
On your new assignment. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to working with you in the new role and all of the board members as we have in the past.
All right, thank you,
We
sir.
appreciate that. The package contains my report. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I do have a couple of additional items, if you're interested.
I'd
that are
be
not
glad
on-
to-
not
that's
on
what
your
we're here
board list. Just a couple updates that are not on that report that are current. The radio project, you may be wondering where we are with that. We're making good progress this month. We have assigned a review committee. It is representative of, and I'll try to list everybody. It's five members that have been on the team since the beginning from the county. It's going to be Sheriff Jones, it's Lauren Brown, our ECC coordinator with the Communications Center, it's Ms. Tomer, it's Mr. Costin, and myself. Those five representing the county staff, and then we have one representative from each fire department, one representative from each police department. And that's pretty much it. And that will be the review committee for the RFPs. Now, when the RFPs come in, they're actually going to go out first in February. We're planning on that goal is February. So the month of January, board members, was the target window for us to build the RFP. So we had one really good meeting right after the holidays on January 3rd, and we had good representation. We held that meeting at Nottoway Emergency Squad and crew. Very good feedback. Everyone very engaged with the team from CTA, and they had 4 members from that team. But again, we're using January to build it, and in February we're hoping to put it out. And then they will probably come back somewhere around the April timeframe. Usually it takes about 60 days, maybe 30 days to get those back. And these reviews could be 700 to 1,000 pages each. So this committee I just mentioned was put together for that reason. We're going to be really busy in March and April.
Okay, good.
Looking at these. So that's the radio project. The other things are basically the EOC. We're back in it. And it's not fully finished, but it's operational. We have all the audio visuals tested. Tomorrow we're putting the phone lines in and hooking up the handsets for the voice over IP telephone. So with the phones being installed tomorrow and the ability to use telephones, we'll have every tool we need, and the only thing we're missing is going to be a couple maps that we're getting made for the wall, and a couple other little polished touches. But other than that, just some things to tidy it up, clean it up. But if we have an event tomorrow, we can go right back in there and start working. So that's good news. And other than that, I'm here for questions.
All right, good report. Any questions, Mr. Hyde? All right, we'll continue. We thank you for your continued service, and of course, you're easy to, if you need to talk to him, I got a question later, you can get in contact with him. Very easy to get in contact
Sure.
with.
You all have my cell phone. I have yours. And again, it's a pleasure, and you just call them anytime.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hyde. Thank you so much for the report. Mr. Zodi, do you have anything else as far as planning and economic? Okay.
Okay, excuse me. Earlier today, I spoke with Peggy Figler with the Historic Association, and we both serve, well, I serve as the contact person for the Road to Revolution, the Sesquicentennial, I believe it is, 250 years since the signing of the Declaration. And we're part of the statewide efforts and everything. One of the things that Peggy informed me about that I never heard of before was we had the possibility to work with another group, a leverage grant through virginia.org to apply for grants for to provide educational informative programs at the schools, libraries, etc., placing signs at historical sites pertaining to the Revolutionary War. and hopefully having a history mobile that will be placed at places throughout the county to educate the public about the Revolution and other educational venues, which would include famous citizens of the county in years gone by, which the county has many. Coming from Peggy and the society, will need to apply for grants to make all this happen, starting with the marketing leverage matching grant, which we will have to apply for before February 28th. And that would be a possible match of $3,600 from the board.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to let you all know tonight, I would have presented this much earlier had I known about it, but we do have, if the board is willing to have that discussion next Thursday, because that's on the 28th. Oh, you can't hear me?
Can't hear you, Greg.
I'm sorry, my voice is going too, so. I can repeat it if y'all need me to.
Yeah, I think the microphone's too far away. Somebody's shorter in stature might have brought it down there.
I'll just hold it like Elvis. Okay. So when I talked to Peggy, we had a phone call today about their Road to Revolution committee and the upcoming events. One of them is going to be a kickoff event at Williamsburg in March, and I'm considering attending that just over the weekend. But one of the things that she brought to my attention was that there's a marketing leverage grant that's available through the state, and this is to help provide for basically work with it for the end result of boosting our tourism presence in the state and specifically celebrating our history with the Revolutionary War. And that's through having educational informative programs at the schools, libraries, etc. History mobiles will be placed at places throughout the county to educate the public about the Revolution and other educational venues, which will include famous citizens of the county in years gone by, of which the county has many. We will need to apply for grants to make all this happen, starting with a marketing leverage matching grant, which we will need to apply for February 28th for a possible $3,600, and another matching grant for $10,000 by the VA250.org committee, whose application is due by possibly April or June. We don't know the next dates yet, but this is all for sites, site guides and whatnot, the signage through the VA250 organization. The other is through leveraging dollars to get educational materials and whatnot to the schools and throughout the community. And so my ask is not for tonight, but just to inform you ahead of time. Okay. And I would have done this much earlier if I was made aware of it, and no fault to Ms. Figler at all. It just came up. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that, and the filing deadline is February 28th.
And this is Revolutionary War, not Civil War, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm already doing work with Drew Huber with Virginia Crossroads for that. Okay. Yeah. So I'm working on that, and we have some new brochures coming out.
That reminds me, in the old days, Miss Vaughn used to make us sing Peter San Francisco. You remember that song? Anybody remember that song? No? Okay. I would sing it, but anyway. All right. I don't know why that came to me. I think he's a Revolutionary War guy. I need to look that up, Google it when I get home.
But that's all I had for y'all. And I do want to note on and I wasn't thinking when I did this, but on item number 3 with the number of people I meet, I used the number 40. That's just the initial call, and it's typically a follow-up if I'd say 3 to 4, a factor of 3 to 4, because there's always follow-up, because I'm always looking for options for property owners to see if there's a way we can work with them when initially I say, sorry, we can't do that. So we're usually talking well over 100 conversations I have a month, and they all aren't planned, despite my sign in the front in the plexiglass in our office saying, please call for an appointment, because I want people to come in and talk to me.
Okay.
But I just want you all to be aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you for your report. All right, following the agenda, the constitutional officer report and comments. I didn't see Ms. Brown. I see Mr. Sheriff Jones. Thank you for coming tonight, sir. You got any comments this evening? Appreciate you standing back and keeping us safe. We appreciate it. Ms. Maya, the treasurer, Christy Hudson, the commissioner of revenue, and I see Ms. Leanne Walters, the Commonwealth's attorney. Any comments? I'm just kidding. No, forget them. Thank you for coming tonight. I give you a hard time, but thank you.
Thank you all. I have an update and some new information. I think I mentioned last time when I was here that we're working on being able to get our case management system to give us actual data for our office.
Okay.
So I have,
Let's see, just you can hand it to me and I'll give them back to them, all right? Thank you.
so on top is just an updated chart that I had given the board several times last year, and it's got all of the 2022 numbers. Beneath that, you will see two different things. One is the total of felony versus misdemeanor cases that we opened in December. So it was 39 cases in total. It shows 38 on there. I think one probably would not have been classified felony or misdemeanor. That doesn't show the number of charges. It just shows the number of cases. And so if a case had a felony, it counted as a felony. You can see the breakdown there is 10 felonies versus 28 misdemeanors. I also went back and looked at how many court appearances we had over the course of the month of December. So that would be, you know, if it was an arraignment or a bond hearing or a trial or a sentencing. We had 146 court appearances in the month of December. I also included a breakdown of all the cases that we opened, those 39, and my admin will classify them based on the most serious charge. So that gives you a breakdown of the types of charges that we saw that we opened and how many of each in the month of December. We're working on modifying to have a little bit more specifics on the types, but that's kind of just giving the board a snapshot of what we're looking at, and I hope to start including that in your board packet or giving it to the county admin with enough time to include in your board packet each month, just to give the board an idea of what is going on in the county criminally. So, and I know some members of the board went to the General Assembly and took a letter I wrote. I appreciate that. I look forward to continuing to work with county admin and the board to hopefully fill those spots that we really do need, because as you can tell, felonies are the smaller part of what we're doing, and that's what they consider our staffing standards based on.
Right.
So, thank you all.
Ms. Walters, we appreciate you giving us, you know, because I know what you're asking, I guess was another position. Did I understand that right?
An admin, another admin position, and another attorney. The attorney to do the misdemeanors. Admin, they say we need 1.5 admin for the felonies that we handle, and we have one.
And so you're trying to give us, I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're trying to give us data-driven, informative stuff, so we can make a decision. Okay. All right. And then we did say we would take a look at that after we do an assessment of like how we're spending money and the budget. And just curious with the board, and thank you for standing up here. Did you get good feel from the senators and delegates that you met with? Blah, blah.
Yeah.
They're not going to commit to anything.
But they listen.
Mr. Chairman, there's something that I want to back up to last month. I believe this board was expecting to have the results available, because I am prepared to make two motions tonight. And a matter of fact, I believe one, irregardless of data that we have here to consider or the information that we were looking for after the first half of the year, is still necessary here. So I'll read this, and Mr. McRoberts, I just hand wrote this just a few minutes ago, so I need your ear on this. I'd like to move to authorize staff to prepare for presentation to the Attorney General for their assistance either in attorney availability or to assist to present a budget request to the governor for additional funding for additional personnel for Nottoway County Commonwealth Attorney's Office to offset caseload created by VCBR. And speaking to the motion, it's just simply the one thing that I did get, and Ms. Simmons, Mr. Vaughn, if y'all would please, if I get off in my recollection here, was that the one spot that we could possibly get some help is through the governor making a budget adjustment. And that being the case, one of the easiest routes is directly through the Attorney General's office. Now, the reason why I stated this like I did, because we didn't go in there just looking for funding. We was looking for a solution. And one of the things that was suggested was, could the Attorney General provide an attorney to come down here and prosecute these cases for VCBR here in Nottoway, or have the offenders taken to a Richmond court to be prosecuted up there for their charges? So we were looking for a solution, not just a handout. That's the reason why I feel like the delegates in the center was actually thinking that this was a good way to go through, and one of the easier ways to get the governor's attention was through the Attorney General's office.
if I can just say one thing, I don't think taking them to Richmond to prosecute would work, just based off, that would require amendments to the law, potentially for the Constitution, things like that.
Okay.
That would be problematic.
Mr. Rourke, let me say about a point of procedure, if you don't mind. So 'cause
Absolutely.
we're not always going to agree. I feel like if you wanted to put that in a motion or you were looking to make that new business, that should have been part of new business, not spinning off the reports of the constitutional officers, which is a way, in a way, and I'm not saying you did that, but it can be perceived as you're trying to hide it and throw it out there. And I'm not saying you did that, but I would have probably, it would have been better and healthier for the board to make a good decision tonight or getting a second. You did put in a motion form, and I'm out of order as well. I should have said, well, can I get a second for discussion? But I just want to throw that out there, but anyway.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I based this on was because I thought it was going to be on the agenda with that information, but since it won't, I was assuming, and that's my fault, I was assuming that when she brought her report forward, because she always brings a report forward, that would be the time for this discussion.
I got you. You thought this was going, because we had talked about it
Yes,
before,
sir.
and you thought it was going to be unfinished
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna give a second, just so we'll be
I'm
in
sorry, yeah.
compliance.
So we got a motion, a second. I
Yeah,
apologize to
yeah.
I went out of
discussion.
procedure there. And anyway, but thank you, John, for talking. So I got a motion, and I got to get to, so can you, when we back up, so let's get a discussion. Give me the meat and potatoes of your motion here. Let me get it
Meat and
straight.
potatoes is either asking the attorney for the staff to present a draft for us to look at and have it ready for presentation after we look at it, for the Attorney General to consider either sending attorneys down here or assisting with the request to the governor for a budget adjustment that would give funding to the Commonwealth's attorney staff for one of these positions.
We presented that to the delegates and also to Senator Roth. We have not heard back from them yet.
Right, but if you...
So we don't know.
And that's what I'm saying. If you recall, Mr. Vaughn, one of the things was the easiest way to this is through the Attorney Generals, and I didn't get the sense that they were going to go to the Attorney General for us.
So
that's why I was asking if the staff could prepare this, that we could review it and see if we can get this sent up. Because if y'all recall, she said she needed this yesterday.
Yeah, so what you're doing is showing that you're putting, we need help in writing.
Exactly.
That's what you're doing. Okay, now I got the meat and potatoes of it. Board, what's your discussion? And I hear what you're saying, Mr. Vaughn, but what he's saying is he met with them, but there's really no paper trail. They don't even know who's that guy, John Rourke, that kind of thing. It might have left there and just it's been dropped. To let them know we have a problem in writing. Anyway. Ms. Shackleton, you got any comment on it?
I do not.
Okay. Ms. Simmons, anything? Okay.
No.
Y'all want a point in question, we put it on the floor for the vote? All right, let's see. So you heard the motion. You asked Mr. McRoberts for something.
If the motion was okay, if I was in line.
No, it's fine. I mean, certainly, getting the state to pay and get the Attorney General's attention during General Assembly session, good luck with that.
Right.
Right.
Maybe by the time we get it presented and get it to them, they'll be able to take a break and look at the mail.
Okay, that's fine, but you're speaking up for what you believe in, and I get you. All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Rourke. I heard a second for Ms. Simmons. Any further discussion? Not sure which way everybody's going. I'd rather we do a roll call. Mr. Costin, if you would.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Supervisor Simmons, how do you vote on the question?
Yes.
Supervisor Rourke?
Yes.
Supervisor Vaughn?
I really have to think about that because we haven't given them an opportunity to do anything yet. It's a short session.
Mr. Vaughn,
I'll go along with it just for the sake of going along, but
All right.
that's not the way we do things with the General Assembly.
Supervisor Shackleton
Yes.
and Chairman Bowen.
I'm gonna say no because I don't like the way his method, but it passed.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I will not be putting the second motion on the floor.
But I'll sign it, Mr. Rourke. As the chairman and vice chair, we'll sign it together.
Mr. Chairman, your vote is 4-1.
Yeah. I just did that to aggravate him.
I know he did.
Mr. Waters, you got anything else you want to add to us?
No, I was just wanted to present the data. I do plan to continue presenting that data. I
Right.
think the
Yeah.
board would be interested in that to know the types of crimes that we're seeing.
I got you, and I want you to leave with this. We're hearing you, okay?
I
Okay.
appreciate that.
All right.
I truly do. Thank you.
And Mr. Costin, the public, if they want to see the statistics, that will be available too for them. Can we put that as well on the internet so they can see that?
We can put it with this meeting's agenda as
Okay, put it
sort
on the
of a
agenda, okay.
follow-up, as a, like a
Just want to make
follow-up
sure
document.
that they're seeing the stuff we're seeing. All right, thank you, Ms. Waters. So unfinished business, I don't see anything. We'll have, we'll probably have unfinished business next time for the, no, we'll have a public hearing. Okay, never mind. Anything, nothing? All right, new business, Mr. Costin, can you, okay, me first. Discussion on reestablishment of committees. All right, so some guy named Steve Bowen put a motion on the floor to not have any more committees. And man, I tell you, if people didn't give me heck over that. So, in a lot of people's eyes, and I see it, that I've crippled the board by, and well, first of all, the motion passed, so it ain't all me, so y'all can take a little ownership here anytime. But anyway, that I crippled maybe slowing up government, and sometimes we need committees like an ad hoc committee. I'm not saying we need a budget committee. I'm not saying we need a personnel committee. I'm saying that at times to give Mr. Costin or the staff some guidance, we may have to bring in a committee that will be appointed by the chairman, an ad hoc committee, depending on what the situation is, who's available, that type of thing. And I guess it would have to, when you do a committee, it's usually 2 people, correct? Anyway, it makes sense, one person, anybody, and
Not much of a committee.
one person, and I think also if Mr. Since I made that statement, when 2 people get together, do you have to advertise to say they're having a meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the public will be invited when we do that. So just a discussion, do we want to bring back the committees as needed? And that would be part of our, I guess, procedures from, it have to be put back in the procedure, right? Policy and procedures, correct?
The policy and procedures, and I have the copy down here, were amended to eliminate all the committees that were established.
Right.
So if you wanted to do ad hocs, you could create those as you go along. But if there are committees that you want to have as standing committees, then yeah, we'd have to go back into the procedures.
All right, so discussion's on the floor. I've confessed my sin. The rest of you are probably not going to do that. But what's your thoughts? Okay.
I would be receptive to ad hoc committees.
Okay.
As needed by the chairman to appoint 2 members of the board to whatever committee that the chair needed.
And that has to be properly put out so people know that the committee is having a meeting.
It's going to be meeting,
Okay.
yes.
A committee that's created by this board is a public body under FOIA.
Okay, gotcha. So we're following right. Mr. Rourke, what's your comment on it?
Well, first of all, I would not say that I voted against that, but I don't want to mention that. But anyway,
Go again.
yes, I think the ad hoc committees is good, but I would like for the board to at least consider reestablishing one committee moving forward, and that would be Parks and Rec, because I think that is something that has just absolutely fallen by the wayside through the county for decades now.
Okay.
Just a consideration. But before we do that, I think it would probably be prevalent to talk to the other, the rec associations and stuff like that, because if they don't see the need, if they don't see the need, then
Right. So you agree that maybe if we did have discussion and they said, I said, well, let's go ahead and do an ad hoc committee and meet with them, that type of thing.
Yep.
Okay. That's a good.
The ad hoc committees as needed, I think it's a wonderful idea.
All right. Mr. Vaughn, what's your thoughts?
I don't want standing committees.
Okay.
So I'll go with ad hoc.
Okay. Ms. Shackleton?
I would be in favor of ad hoc.
All right. Well, since Mr. Rourke, golly, it hurts me to say this. He was the one who voted against it. Mr. Roy, would you put a motion on the floor and shame your chairman?
Mr. Chairman, gladly. Love you, Steve. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for the board to approve the chairman to establish ad hoc committees as needed moving forward.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a second with Mr. Vaughn. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Crew boundary line adjustment. Mr. Costin, can you introduce us to it?
Yes, sir, be happy to. You have in your packet, beginning with my cover memo, which concludes with the suggested motion. But staff does recommend going forward with the action as requested by both the town of Crew. You have their request in the packet dated January 18, 2023, as well as the initiating request from the landowner Sanjay Mittal, president of Mittal Investments, LLC. You also have some background data relative to code authority. Some of your graphics, you'll see the aerials, and I draw your attention to the first graphic, the first aerial. If you're familiar with this piece of property, and it's known as the Rich Inn property, there's a line on that graphic running off of West Colonial Trail Highway north through the pool, the swimming pool, through the building, and on up to Melody Lane. That is actually the approximate corporate limits for Crew. Anything on the right side is in Crew, anything on the left side is out of Crew, which means this property, the building, is actually sitting partly in Crew, partly in the county. The new owner is going through the process of rehabilitating this property and wants to do some expansion, some commercial expansion. He would like to fully incorporate the parcel that a portion of the building sits on, which is identified 2 documents over on the plat, the draft plat, as parcel 18A9-1-3, and also the parcel to the west and north. It's all one parcel, is a flag shape or meat cleaver shaped parcel, 18A9-1-2. Totals approximately 9.45 acres between the 2 total parcels. But essentially what they want to do is get the development completely under the town so that they only have to work with one set of development standards. Obviously what the owner is doing is enhancing the property as it exists today. He wants to expand, put in some new commercial. There are no other landowners. There are no other residents that would be included. It's just these 2 pieces of property. So staff would recommend going forward with this for the purpose of the economic benefit. Now there'll have to be public hearings by both properties and some documents prepared for circuit court review and approval, but staff recommends going forward with the request.
Okay, so you hear the request. You see that anybody got any questions, clarifications there? What I'm seeing, it makes sense, but of course we got to hear what the public has to say before we decide. But all they asking right now, you asking is, can we put it out there for the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't hear a lot of discussion. Anybody want to make that motion?
I will, that's my district.
All
I
right.
move that the county staff be directed to work with the staff of the town of Crew to undertake a boundary line adjustment, which would incorporate all of the following parcels: 18A9-1-2, 18A9-1-3, 18A9-1-4, and 18A10-1-11 completely into the town of Crew.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and I got a second. And from what I'm reading and looking like, it's so the general public has an idea what we're looking at. It's it goes right to where it looks like Triple R they farm that land right beside it as you go down, but that's not on that property. It's right beside it. That's right beside it. All right. I got a motion. I got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, 5-0. Next one, Mr. Costin.
Appointment of Social Services Board. You have a communication from Shannon Reed, the Director of the Nottoway County Department of Social Services. Ms. Reed points out that Mrs. Jacqueline Downs, her board appointment will expire in 2023. There's regulations in place that a member cannot serve more than 2 terms, and Ms. Downs is finishing up her 2nd term. She's served quite admirably, according to Ms. Reed. There's also another board member, Ms. Gravely. Now, her term does not expire until later in the year, but both of these individuals are District 3 residents, and that's considering redistricting, the post-redistricting. And there is no one from District 5 that serves on that board. Staff would recommend that the board move forward with an appointment, but I give some consideration to District 5 representation. Happy to take any questions you have, but staff is not aware of any individuals that they could recommend or offer up.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we've began discussions with one individual in District 5.
Okay.
And I believe we're going to have a suggestion ready for February's meeting.
Okay. So what do, Ms. Simmons, are you okay? I mean, you see the recommendation, basically this District 3 will not be reappointed. You'll go to a District 5, but you already got a District 3 person on that. Did I hear that right?
With the redistricting, I do.
Yeah, with the redistricting, okay.
Yes.
And is that acceptable to you, ma'am?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So any vote needed for that? Just put it on unfinished business?
We'll
next
put it
month?
on unfinished business
For
next
District
month.
5 appointment. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Simmons, for
you're welcome.
yielding to that. I appreciate it. All right. Going on, the appointment to the Planning Commission.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we've recently received 2 resignations from the Planning Commission, Mr. Jack Leslie from District 1, Mr. William Gunn from District 5. Staff recommends the resignations be accepted. The members thank for their past service, and the board consider reappointment options. You have in the packet the list of the Planning Commission members now and which districts they represent and where we have vacancies.
I would, board members, because I'm on the Planning Commission, we had some good conversation with Mr. Zodi and Mr. Costin. I have, and the Planning Commission numbers, we have some ideas for options. I really think that we need to have a work session. This needs to be, I would ask that we table it, have a work session to get into a robust discussion about it. Because if we make a change, I want to do it through nutrition. In other words, we got some really good members. You saw them here last night, man, and they've done a fantastic job. So I really want to strategize, and we sit down and really have good, honest conversations about how we could restructure that Planning Commission that would work and continue helping our county out. So would that be okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let's put it unfinished business, and then when we schedule the next work session, we'll put that in a work session. Right?
Okay.
Hopefully we can get maybe 2 or 3 topics in the same work session.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Authorization for public hearing about a budget adjustment. Ms. Tomer, thank you for coming tonight. Did you drop the computer or
No.
Okay.
The county is in receipt of the insurance proceeds from our Corp Insurance Company in reference to the Nottoway biofuels fire from back in April of '22. That settlement amount was $440,908.27. And I asked the board tonight to authorize a public hearing on that budget adjustment for the February regular board meeting.
Okay. To educate me, we have to do a public hearing. Why for that? Because of the cost amount?
You're required to do a public hearing on budget amendments that total over 1% of the current expenditures.
Okay.
This is pretty close, so I just feel like it's just doing due diligence to have a
Good
public hearing
business.
on it.
And something else might come along.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I'm looking for authorization to have a public hearing for this budget adjustment so the public can look at it and,
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
okay. Got a motion from Mr. Vaughn. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Got to get a second?
Second.
All right, got a second from Ms. Simmons. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, Ms. Tomer, you have that. Thank you. And thank you for suggesting that, even though it was close. Solid Waste Study Contract, Mr. Costin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you know, we issued a request for proposals for a solid waste study, receiving only one response. That RFP was reissued. Submission date was January 4. We received one and only one, the same proposer the first time. Staff recommends that we do not go back out for any additional RFPs. We have drawn up a contract with that provider. They have offered a contract. Sands Anderson has been in negotiations with the company to bring forward a contract. I am sorry to report that we were not able to complete those negotiations by today. And so I would like to carry this over to next month.
Okay.
Because I don't want to go forward without you all at least getting your eyes on the contract.
I just asked her that.
Yeah, that's what, we have no contract to give you.
Okay.
So I just don't, the suggested motion was in hopes of having a contract to you Monday night, but that didn't happen.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. We're on MOU, the VFHS grant, and Ms. Tomer, after you finish that, stay with the consent items as well, if you don't mind, please.
The county has been awarded grant funding in the amount of $5,000 from the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies. These funds are allocated to assist with direct animal care, to include vetting, supplies, dog food, even improvements to kennels and recreation areas for animals. The county has actually been a recipient of these funds in the past to the tune of a little over $20,000. I think it's within the last 2 years. Acceptance of these funds does require a memorandum of understanding between the Federation and the county. We have reporting requirements. We have to, detail every expenditure we make using these funds. It's very transparent, and they are a very giving agency. So I do ask that you authorize Administrator Costin to execute that memorandum of understanding.
Okay. You hear the request by Ms. Tomer. Anybody want to, any comments, anything you want to ask her, clarification?
Yeah, just for clarification, so the MOU doesn't come till after we accept it?
No, it's just part of the it's a standard. We're giving you these funds. You acknowledge you have to do these reporting requirements. We will release the funds.
All right.
Gotcha. Any other clarification? Anybody want to put that motion on the floor for so we can proceed?
Mr. Chairman. I'll second it.
All right, so we got a motion to accept the appropriate Virginia Federation of Human Societies funding in the amount of $5,000 and authorize the county staff to execute the required memorandum of understanding, MOU.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I got a motion from Mr. Vaughn and a second by Mr. Rourke. I appreciate that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Ms. Tomer. We'll go ahead and keep on moving on with the consent items.
So the consent agenda is a little lengthy tonight, and if you may indulge, we need to break that up into two separate parts.
Okay.
The bulk of it is your December expenditures for all funds. There is a Library of Virginia grant for the Circuit Court Clerk for restoration of records in her office. The school has an insurance claim from I believe it's a vehicle settlement. They have another budget adjustment as a state reimbursement for CGI maps of the schools. There is a budget adjustment of $15,900 that was a payment from UAV Pro to the county. The county in turn pays the Tobacco Commission Region Opportunity Fund loan payment for them. There's a budget adjustment for the landfill for the annual DEQ litter prevention and recycling program. You'll see that amount is actually $87.30. We only need to adjust the budget by $1,730.50. Part of that money was already budgeted. There's a budget adjustment for the library, for the Dolly Parton Imagination Fund, and the sheriff, as you all saw probably in the media, where our K-9 Bailey, they won the grant for that. And there was an additional amount that the library received shortly thereafter of $200 for the Dolly Parton Imagination Fund. There was a donation received by the county. It was made payable to the county, but the intentions of the donator were to have that fund, those funds were actually donated to the CARES group. So we have received that money. We need to in turn give that money to the CARES group. There is a refund of Anthem funding to a previous employee. That should have been sent directly to that employee. It was not. It was made payable to the county. We need to distribute those funds. And we are in receipt of the fiscal year 23 fire programs funds, and that totals $12,853.34. In the past, that has been equally distributed among the 3 fire departments. I suggest that we keep that distribution method. And if you would entertain a motion on those first 12 items, we'll move on to the remainder.
Okay, so you hear the consent calendar is what Ms. Tomer has recommended. She stopped at item 12, when I see it. Anybody would make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented thus far?
I move to approve the items 1 through 12 of the consent agenda as presented, including, excuse me, authorization for equal distribution of the FY23 fire programs funds to the 3 volunteer fire departments.
Okay, you hear the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Been properly seconded by Mr. Rourke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Ms. Tomer. And the lease authorization?
Your last item is the lease authorization between the County of Nottoway and Caterpillar Machinery. When we adopted, when you all adopted, the fiscal year 23 budget, you did that being made aware that we were intending to lease 3 pieces of equipment from the landfill in attempts to try to reduce repair and maintenance cost. It's taken a great deal of effort on a lot of parts to get this far. This is one of the 3 pieces. The other 2 have not been received yet. We will have to do this again when those 2 are received. But this is for a 22 articulated truck. It is a 5-year lease. The county can turn the equipment in at the end of that. The county can also choose to make month-to-month payments until we find something different. We can enter into a new lease at that time as well. I do have the entire 28-page document if you'd like to read it. But we did have Stans Anderson review it for us. There were some changes that needed to be made, so I'm glad that we did. We've gotten those taken care of. Everything seems to be ready to go. It does require action, official action by the board to execute the lease. Okay.
And Ms. Tomer, you know, we made that decision, I know very well, because it's so costly for that new stuff. And we've tried, I'm getting more acceptable to data-driven things, so can you start, you know, maybe when we have work sessions or something, shows are we saving money by leasing or are we not? Certainly. You know, but the equipment has been so expensive, so. Okay.
I can assure you we are saving
money. Okay.
Because of not having to pick up the repair bills.
Okay.
Because we've had equipment that has been out of service for weeks while it's being repaired.
All right. All right. Looks like I need a motion. Anybody?
I move to adopt the resolution approving the equipment lease with Carter Machinery and authorize Administrator Costin to fully execute the necessary documents.
All right.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Simmons. I heard a second over there by Mr. Vaughn. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Tomer. Ms. Tomer, while you're up there, I'm putting you on the spot. I won't put you on the spot. I'll put you on the spot. Somebody in here asked me they want to look at the videos of this meeting. How do they do that?
I believe Andrea will have to answer
Andrea,
that. They're archived on the website, I believe.
It's on the website, and they go to archives.
You can go to the website and access our YouTube channel. It's easiest to just go to our YouTube channel and they're all there.
Can you say that in the microphone so people will know that?
Yeah, it's easier to go to the YouTube channel where they are broadcast from, and they are archived on there.
Right, okay, thank you. You know, it's sad when people ask me IT stuff, you know, anyway. But it's wonderful that they can go back and look at stuff because they want to see what they missed and that kind of thing. Thank you, Ms. Stoneman, thank you, Andrea, I appreciate your help. All right, following that, you see the correspondence and informational items. There's 4 there. Has anybody got any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on and turn it over to the County Administrator, Mr. Costin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My first paragraph there pretty much speaks to the time that we spent with during the annual local government day between VACO, VML, and the Planning District Association. While Mr. Rourke, Mr. Vaughn, and Ms. Simmons were meeting with delegates and senators, Ms. Tomer and I, they kind of overlapped schedule, and we stayed in an opioid abatement workshop looking at funding and expenditure protocols for that money. Which, by the way, we received notice last night of yet another settlement. So we've got more money coming in than what we've already received for that purpose. The request for proposals for audit services have been issued. Responses are due February 10. While we've been getting great service from Robinson, Farmer, and Cox, we wanted to go out there and see if there was a fresh set of eyes that we might want to bring in. The improvements to obtain the energy efficiency continue. We are really turning to HVAC. There's work being done in our building. There's work being done in the circuit court clerk's office, upgrading that old system. The pulley house, it's been down again. This is my point. We would have been moving dirt from the landfill to that site to level it out, but the equipment was down. So that project's running a little bit behind, but we're still working on that. The handicap ramp for the Commissioner of Revenue's office has been installed, and that came in under budget. I believe I brought an updated ARPA funding sheet to the board's attention earlier this week. We're continuing to seek to fill a position for the senior maintenance position for here at the complex. We did fill, as I've noted, the LRA-like position, and that gentleman's on board. We will be pursuing additional recruitments in the very, very near future. I'd like to point out that thanks to the Department of Social Services staff, Caitlin Wilbur, the duties of the part-time Comprehensive Child Services Act coordinator are being carried out. That position was vacated by the incumbent about a month ago. The personnel policy update, the manual update, we have, the first phase of that was a questionnaire. Ms. Tomer, Ms. Presley, and I have worked that. We've circulated our product to the constitutional officers for their comment should they wish to participate in our personnel policy. And once we have those back, that's the deadline's the end of this month, we'll forward that on to the council, who will prepare a draft personnel policy for staff and review, staff review as well as board review and eventual adoption. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have. I'd like to take a moment, thank the board's indulgence for letting me work through a mild case of COVID. And again, this evening, thank you all so much for remembering my father-in-law, who was preparing to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Costin. Good report, and I appreciate your time, too. And all right, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to, so the public will know at this point here, we want to do comments from the members of the board. And before we go in closed session, sometimes we don't know when we're going to get out, so we want to have comments so the public can hear that. That's been shifted, and I thank Ms. Shackleton for making that change as Madam Chair. So Vice Chairman Rourke, you go first, sir. You got any comments and members and comments to make to the board and others?
Mr. Chairman, my brain hurts. There's a million things we could talk about right here tonight. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of good positive things going on here. I think Nottoway is looking at a very successful 2023. That's my vision, that's my goal, and I think we're going to get a lot done this year.
I like that positive attitude, and I thank you, sir. How about Ms. Simmons, Supervisor Simmons?
No, I don't have anything.
Nothing? Supervisor Vaughn?
I don't have anything.
All right. Supervisor Shackleton?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Costin, I did have a note here, and that's one thing we all got in common. We got family, and Mr. Costin, I did tell him today. I said, look, you don't have to be here. You should be by your wife's side, going through these tough times, losing her father, and we all understand that. I think some people in this room. I see Miss Norton back here. I lost my mom this year, and she lost her, so we know how that is, and many others out here have lost people. So, but I thank you, Mr. Costin. I know it was hard for you to get here, and And if we need to go in closed session, you need to move on and be beside your wife, we can figure that out. So I just wanted to offer that to you. Mr. Rourke, John Rourke, I appreciate, as vice chair that you did go to VACO and speak to all the delegates and different ones, and Ms. Simmons and Mr. Vaughn accompanied you all, and Ms. Tomer as well. So going in there, you bend people's ear and you hope it bends and they listen to you, but I appreciate that as well. Just a quick question, just to make sure, we had a draft that was given to us, and we had on there February 2nd. I want the public here, it was a possible tentative joint meeting with the school board. Is that happening, or do we know?
I asked Ms. Meyer Tuesday. I was participating in the school strategic planning committee session with Supervisor Sheckman, and she said that her problem was trying to get all of her board to commit.
Okay.
She seemed optimistic. I said, well, we've got it scheduled. We've got it there.
Right.
We're not gonna.
I got you.
That's not the date of the next strategic planning session, is it? Fine.
And I realized when y'all this was a draft for possible meetings, and I just wanted to let the public hear that. And then was another one, possibly the county administrator could propose the budget will be presented to the board the February 9th, if that's possible. But I know y'all got a lot of, that was very optimistic. I got you. But anyway, it's important that we do have some type of partnership. We've heard that from the public with the school board, because Katie, help me out here. 80% of our budget goes to the school system. Close 79%, 80%. That's big numbers. And but anyway, I just want to share that with you. All right, that's all my report. And I don't want to. And I also, I'm going to ask for a motion. Appreciate all the family members and people came here to take part of their day to be part of our local government. We need you, and I heard Mr. Perry say last night, we all love Nottoway. And when I see people out here, it shows that you do care about Nottoway, and you do need to keep us focused and making sure we head in the direction that you like to see us. But you always got to remember, there's 15,000 people in this county, and so we try to listen to everybody, but not everybody gets their way. But we want to let you know we do listen to you. And I'm trying to, some of the things, my goal is to, you notice that we didn't give presentations tonight, awards to people. I'll probably do that twice a year. I'm trying to maybe have more presentations in another meeting so we can have more time for discussion with the, after you get your 5 minutes with the public, and maybe get some ideas and listen to what people got to say and try to respond to those comments. Okay? Thank y'all. Can I get a motion now to go in closed session for someone?
Let's see, if I don't miss this, Mr. Chairman, because I know part of this has been taken out here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I see this here.
Skip over that part.
Okay. I move that the Board of Supervisors in Nottoway County, Virginia adjourn into closed meeting pursuant to the Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by Nottoway County regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiation or litigating posture of the public body, specifically regarding land use, regulatory enforcement, and 2.2-3711A1, assignment and performance of specific county employees, specifically relating to personnel matters now pending in county administration.
Second.
All right, I got a motion from Mr. Rourke with taking out the water service option code and added on the other one, and I appreciate that. I got a properly second by Ms. Simmons. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The board is now going into closed session.
That's really what I was talking about. Right to
2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this Board of Supervisors that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Nottoway County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by the Virginia law was discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meetings were heard, discussed, or considered by the Board of Supervisors, and 3, no action was taken in the closed meeting regarding the items discussed.
Second.
All right, you have a motion, you got it properly second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, Mr. Costin, please.
Supervisor Simmons, do you so certify?
Yes.
Supervisor Rourke, do you so certify?
Yes.
Supervisor Vaughn, do you so certify?
Yes.
Supervisor Shackleton, do you so certify?
Yes.
And Chairman Bowen, do you so certify?
Yes, sir.
Your vote is 5-0, Mr. Chairman.
Any more business the board like to discuss?
No, sir.
Okay. I entertain a motion for we adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn from Ms. Simmons, got a second by Mr. Vaughn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and stand up, let's go home. Be careful.
Let me tell you something, Bowen. I'm looking at the clock.